Welcome to Stoic and Steel. I'm Paeden Underwood, and I'm here with Jonathon WolfeBarron, founder of Rolling Adz. Here at Stoic and Steel, we are trading paradigms through trades, impacting future generations by living intentionally with faith, family, finance, and fitness. And what is it all if you're not having a little bit of fun while you're doing it? The trade of ferry gave me guidance and is physically, mentally challenging, and when done right, is very rewarding. I often find myself comparing the trade itself to life and how you can be successful work-wise and personally. And that was the inspiration of this and of this podcast. So welcome.
Thank you, man. Glad one here.
Yeah, one thing that I like to give every guest is a horseshoe. So you get a special one. I stamped it. I ordered a stamp that says Stoic and Steel on it, and it was a misprint, if you will. So you get a misprinted side and then the right one. So it says Stoic and Steel and then Stoic and Steel. So thank you for being on.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be.
Let's just get right into what you do, your story, how you started from the beginning, that idea, the concept to where you're at now.
I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I mean, I had lemonade stands as a kid, just sell popping water at parades, and just growing up, my dad had a business. All my family had businesses, and so I mean that goes from generations to having, back in the day, my family were farmers, and so we've always had this real element to us, and I've always wanted to have my own business, and so I ended up working for my dad's business for quite a while as a kid.
For the how you do?
You owned a trucking company. So it was 53-foot semi-trailers or trucks that drove all across the country.
Yeah.
And so as a kid, you'd have loads that would shift, and, they would used to haul beer. And so all these pallets would get tipped over. And so my job was go in and clean them all up and or wash the trucks when I get new drivers for them. And then one day I had the idea, this is by the time I was ready to get into college, so about 18-ish. And I was like, why don't we advertise on the side of these trucks? It would be kind of cool. That was right around 2008 when the recession was happening. Everyone was hurting for money, and we were making money. And there was, from a little small town, there was 20 other trucking companies, and there was 2 left. It was us and another. And so that was kind of the idea. And I went to college and went to school for entrepreneurship, business management, got my bachelor's, and I had this business idea the whole time. And so finally, when I graduated, I want to see if we can do this and advertise on it.
Were you able to put some elements together while you were in business school of working on this? You were able to set up a business plan in school and kind of hash out some of that during that time?
Yeah, so I actually put the whole business plan together in college. And I would always be pitching to my friends. And it was funny because you get a lot of people that were naysayers and stuff. We had this investment day where you'd have these investors would come in and they'd analyze your business plans. And I had this inclination where I don't want to pitch it. I was afraid they were going to steal it from me.
Yeah.
And so I pitched them a whole different business plan. I pitched them a trophy deer ranch idea. And we actually won. I got an A on it. No. So, but I was always afraid of that. And then actually fast forward, 5 years later, my brothers went to college, and they pitched they were going to business as well, same college. They pitched their business plan, and one of the investors took his idea.
Oh, wow.
I've seen that actually happen twice now.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law as well.
Did they get paid off for it?
No, they were coming in and they were in competing markets, and they just took it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was maybe a blessing I didn't do it at that time.
Yeah.
But I graduated college, and then was like, I'm gonna do this. Of course, I didn't have any money, so I went back, worked for the family business. And I actually worked for family business all throughout college too. So I was able to graduate debt free. But it was a life of just constantly working, and I've always had a job and always worked. And then I worked for family stuff. My dad was a narcissist to the T, to the definition, and very hard, and being an alcoholic and stuff. I just got really actually in a depressed state, and I had a house I had bought and everything, and I lived in it and fixed and flipped it. And I got a road trip out to West one day and to see an aunt that I'd never met before. Yeah, she lived overseas for years and came out here, and I was, you know what, I'm gonna launch the business up out here. And so I packed up everything, came to Oregon,
and you were where at before? You were in
small town in Upper Michigan called Ruscanaga.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I came out here and didn't know anything. Cost of living was probably 5 times higher than where I'm from.
Yeah.
That was you could rent a house for $500, and it was $1,500 to rent an apartment here. My money's not going to go far at all. Yeah. So yeah, I started grinding, meeting people, found guys that are on delivery routes and connected with them. I was calling marketers and then realized I knew absolutely nothing about marketing. And so just kind of became curious, talking to advertisers and seeing who's on billboards and saying, hey, if I can get you off a billboard, would you go on a truck that drives around? They were asking about how much impressions they see, which how many people see these vehicles. I had no clue. And so, yeah, just kind of like it took the feedback and then just just ran with it. So how do you track those impressions? So it's interesting. For a while, there was a study from like 1970 that said 600 people see a semi per mile. And then I got laughed out of a room one day. That's a 1970 quote or study in 2013. Yeah. So I got hold of an agency and they said, okay, we can actually take cell phones and track cell phones that come in a proximity of your vehicle. So first, we need to see how far you can see us. We started working with box trucks. They're 26 feet because marketers want to be localized. They didn't want to go from Portland to Seattle. They would have a truck just in Portland and one in Seattle, right? So the frequency is how many times you see something. And we get inundated with so many ads that you want to be able to see an ad 7 to 12 times just to create a lasting impression locally. Yeah. And if you see it in the real world, psychologically, it becomes a real product. So if you see it again online, you're 3 times more likely to click on it, which is statistic I learned years later. Wow. So we did a measurability study. We were able to grab all these cell phone signals that were within the proximity of how far you could see it. And you stamp that over, were they in it for 8 seconds or longer? Were they traveling with it? So it's not just something going in the opposite direction. And then from there, you could actually say, give a sign. Because you're gonna see the ad if you're right next to it versus billboards, 350 feet off the road and way up in the air. So you're driving, looking straight, you have to look, this off the road. Whereas semis, right lane, as you're driving it, come up behind it and you got to pass it. So your exposure time is actually a lot longer, or dwell time they call it. And so, which was cool. And so we did the study, and then in the midst of this, we go, once we have all these cell phone signals, you can actually grab the advertising ID off the phone. So everyone has a Mac ID on their phone, which is like the ID that you use. It's tracking you. Yeah. And of course, we're tracked with everything. But you can then send ads to that phone directly. So I have your ID through their web browser or what? Yeah. So anything you're on, any type of website you're on or app that you're on that allows advertising, and then we can put ads to it, like display ads, video ads, and then you connect to your Wi-Fi when you get home, you get your IP address, and you could then ads there too. Yeah. So I'm okay, this is cool. Let me invest in some technology, which at the time we're hustling and trying to make, selling ads on trucks, which it started taking off. What year is this? This is 2014, 15. Okay. I'm burning through my crazy. Yeah. I got a couple of campaigns going. We got a couple of casinos on board, a winery. And you paid for the study. Yeah. We paid for the study, everything, which was a ton of money too, right? I flipped this house, made, whatever, called 50 grand. And then it's just, I'm burning through it like crazy to the point I take a job at, it was actually Lamb Research. It was a swing shift job just so I could do that during the day or do that during the night and then work my company during the day, and just kept grinding. And then in 2016, I started making a ton of traction. I got in with Sam's Club and some other franchises across the country. And then I get an email one day from this like lady, and it looked like she owned like a hair salon. And she was the person running a presidential campaign. Oh, well. And so I'm at my, spring shift job. I get an email and they get like 400 grand wired to my bank account. I put my notice in and I'm going full time. So, yeah. And so that was for a politician. Yeah, this is a politician. Yeah. It wasn't actually a Democrat or Republican at the time. It was a libertarian. So she low into who he was. And yeah. And so he wasn't getting any airtime or anything. So he needed a way to get some exposure. And so we put these on trucks and we're supporting local truck drivers. And I'm like, that's straight where my heart is. Yeah. And they were all for it. And it was really cool because a couple of the guys, they had their truck name on the side of their door, and their Instagram accounts and social medias blew up too because people thought they were paying for it themselves. We had to support these local truck drivers. And so we weren't even tied to this at that point. We didn't have our name on it or anything. So it was pretty cool to see though. Yeah. And that was kind of gave me proof. I got something here, and then just kept hammering into it. And you pushed what for about 10 years? Yeah. 2008 to it was 8 years of just like, that was also like building the business plan and everything. So it's always been, but actually going at it. Yeah, I'm hired for 3-4 years before I even made enough traction to go on my own full time.
So I think that speaks to your tenacity and grit and believing in yourself, knowing that you're going to get through it.
I always had goal lists I'd write down, on white paper, and you look at them every day, and it's hard too, because you see all your friends going into jobs and making money, and you're like, I'm just burning through cash, and I'm living with 5 dudes just to not have looked over big rent or anything, just keep my expenses low. And I made just enough at my swing shift job, which was a blessing too. I learned a ton. Learned a lot in like the corporate space too, which I still can apply some of those principles to my current role right now. But I made just enough money to pay all my expenses and pay one employee, and then that was it. And then I had a little bit of money for beer and stuff for weekends. So I had some fun.
Yeah, well, you need to do that and not let things become overbearing in that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes off with a big lump sum coming in. You go full time. How do you hire? Because at that time you hired an employee while you're still working part time. What was that employee's job? How were you delegating those things, and why hire someone?
Well, I hired him because I was exhausted. I was doing 18-hour days, and I was just burning out, right?
Yeah.
And so the job for him was, you're just going to focus on sales. I can come in and do the admin stuff, and then I'll do sales as much as I can during the day, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, long story short, he got into money and then cocaine. And so I didn't know that either. Days were just crushing it, and then next week he just completely just tanked. I had no clue what was going on. I'd never been exposed to that in my life. And one of my roommates came over and told me, well, this kind of explains it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to learn that, just learn management, right? Setting expectations, setting standards. And it was constantly a battle of, okay, how do I teach and train? And, later on in life, I learned more about SOPs and setting, standard operating procedures, which is something that we did at Land Research. I just didn't imply that. I was going to learn the hard way there.
Yeah.
Because then when you hire someone and you start seeing a pattern in the way these people are acting, it's not them, it's you. As you're feeling, this is my leadership coming off on you and not setting the right expectations. And a lot of how I was needing was more on feeling than actual metrics. Because I have a heart, I always want to help people. And sometimes when you're trying to help somebody, you're going only as a person, but just because you help somebody doesn't mean they're the right person for the job.
Yeah.
And so when you can have standards and metrics,
what did you base those standard and metrics off of? Obviously you had to do the job to know what it took to get there, but what was it from your own experience, or did you have to look at how the shortcomings of other people doing it? Because you being the founder, you kind of get into this idea of, it's fine to take 3 hours on this task, but maybe it's not for somebody who's not in it for, the way you are.
And I'm a visionary to the T. And so visionary, I'm always looking at these big, audacious goals. And so let's make, $500,000 this month, and put that on the goal and set stamp. Okay, we can do this, right? If we do, X amount of deals at this rate, we can make it. And so I always had like the end goal in mind, but never the actions to make it. And so a lot of times you're halfway through the month and you're not going to hit that goal. There's no motivation to it, right? And so if I can go back and say, okay, well, if we can make 100 calls a day, and we know we have a 25% land rate, and then we're going to close, 40% of those people, then I can put a metric to it and say, hey, every time you make 100 calls, you're going to almost guarantee that you're going to make this kind of money.
Yeah.
And that took years to actually kind of figure out and dial in.
Did you find that out on your own, or was that something that you had mentorship in?
I had early on, I hired a coach. Like, that was actually the first expense I had, was actually a coach.
Before you hired an employee?
The meetup groups and networking groups. And yeah, I didn't have a dad much. I had a dad. I have a dad, but not
a strong father figure to lead by example. Yeah, that you wanted to follow with.
And I wouldn't honestly want to lead. He runs businesses and stuff. I wouldn't want to lead that way either. And
yeah.
So I was trying to find my own way of doing it. And so it was a very, like, where I grew up working was extremely toxic, and I didn't want to do that, but I almost pivoted so much where I was too easygoing. And so people would then take advantage of me. Yeah. And that was actually a pattern that happened a few times in my life where I'm like, okay, I got to reflect here and how do I change this? But yeah, leading by metrics was something that was another thing. I would get advice and then I wouldn't take the advice. And I think it's an entrepreneurial thing where you think you know better than somebody else. Yeah. And this guy's in his 60s and he's already ran multiple $1-million businesses and extremely successful. And here I am, this 20-year-old punk thinking I know what I'm doing and I don't. Yeah. And so, yeah, you just and I think sometimes you have to learn the hard way. You have to hit rock bottom. You have to, okay, I didn't take advice and I got this result. Maybe I'll take advice here. Absolutely. And he would give me books and I wouldn't read them. And that was another regret. I would have just, if I would have read the books he gave me in the beginning, but it totally changed my life. Yeah. There's a lot of knowledge behind a cover of the book. Take 20 years of experience and get read in 4 hours.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's one thing in the trade affair read that we do often is get together as local and national groups to just trade information and hopefully curb the, I know better type thing. And the people who go down the route of taking mentorship, of not assuming that they can do it all on their own, exponentially increase in skill set, the way they handle clients, the way they conduct their business, overall professionalism. And then the folks who don't, they can spin a good story to keep employed a lot of the time, but they end up getting in their own way and creating more problems that then they have to maybe make up a story or, not walk in truth to continue their business. And so I think finding that mentorship is so important.
It was huge. And then also just having that community too, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
For years, I always thought I could do it on my own. Right. And like had this drive of like, my dad told me like, you'll never amount to anything in life. And without me, you'll just be a POS. And so I always had this mantra, like, I'm going to just prove dad wrong. Right.
Yep.
And by doing that, I never brought in the Vikes or community. And I, like I said, had a business coach, but it was years later finally like, okay, hey, I can learn, why not just learn lessons from other people and not have to try to keep making these mistakes and losing money and sacrificing relationships and everything to do this. And
it's almost self-sabotage and 100%. I think it's also a lack of trusting that people actually want the betterment for you. And you kind of get a clouded viewpoint of people in that mentality. Because I think for the most part, people want to see success if you're asking them for help, or at least they're not going to lead you down the wrong road, hopefully. How do you discern what?
That was tough for me, man. Because you grew up with a narcissist. Like a narcissist is something that literally like in a true, like we have those narcissistic traits, but my father would like, he wouldn't, it's not someone that would want to see the best for it. It'd always be like a hidden agenda. And so knowing like growing up with that was hard because it's every time I wanted to trust somebody, I'm like, okay, what do they secretly want from me? Right.
Yeah.
And which is a horrible mindset to have. And so you don't trust anybody. So you think, okay, I got to go on my own because this person's going to steal from me or do this. I mean, I didn't present my business plan in college for that reason, right? Yeah, in hindsight, I would have just reached out. Yeah, people are going to burn you, but you're going to get so much farther ahead with a group of people. You can't build a multi-million-dollar company by yourself. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was a tough one to learn. And I wish I would have reflected more. At the time, I wasn't a believer or anything, right? So you don't have moral compass or North Star to align to. It was just kind of more like money focused. I'm like, okay, I just want to think about your money because if I do that, dad will be proud of me. Or did Ben Worrell? Yeah. At the end of the day, it was a narcissist. Like he's never going to do that. So it's actually be jealous and try to sabotage you, in which he actually tried to do at one point too. So
yeah, it's kind of a little stuff. Maybe we'll get into that. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, no, it's good stuff. So are they physical ads on the side of the truck? Is it like a video type deal, or like is it just the Instagram at labels or a QR code? What is it that?
Okay, so we have a couple different platforms now. So we've grown. Talk about like listening to your clients, right?
Yeah.
So to wrap up box trucks costs about $3,000. So just to get like 53 foot, just even a 26 footer. So by the time you pay for materials, ship it, get an installer, install it, get it on there, wash the trucks, everything, pay a driver, you're all in at least $3,000 if you're doing it right. You can do cheap vinyl, but then that peels off, and we have our own print shop in house where we overlap the panels, so nothing. So it's a quality control thing. I want to keep high quality. So there's that element of it, and then you have a driver that drives a dedicated route, and so the dedicated routes are either you could think of like a UPS route or a post office route, and so they do like the same mailbox every day. So they're like in that same vicinity. They're doing grocery stores and things like that, filling shelves. Or you had like a more of a Amazon type route that would be like zip code wise. So we're advertising in those big delivery trucks that do those. So they can be in knowing those routes. then we can basically be like the matchmakers for those.
Yeah.
And that's our static trucks. And then what happened is I'd have clients come to me and they go, hey, I have an event. I have this conference we're doing, and there's all these, my avatar is going to be there. Like my ideal clientele is going to be here. I only need it for 3 days. Well, I'm going to wrap a truck for $3,000, get a driver. Now to tell them go off your route. Don't go doing your deliveries where you make money, which they make about $1,500 a day gross, and I make about a quarter of that profit. And so like it would just cost a substantial amount of money to do that. And I met this gentleman in Vegas, and he had these LED trucks. And I'm like, well, this is a way better way to do this. I can just send you the ad. You put on this LED truck, your driver will drive it there. And then we can put this big, bright, beautiful ad on the side of this truck outside this convention. They'll do that. And it was a fraction of the cost. So we got into that space. And then that exploded across the country to where we have like 150 across the country right now, where we do any events. And then we got into, they were like hiring campaigns for live customers. And yeah, it's kind of exploded on that side too.
Yeah. So at working with a multi-state, you're only in America?
We do a little bit in Canada.
Okay.
We dabbled in Mexico.
Stuff like that. That's pretty cool, man. That's impressive. So like say a client is a multi-state client as well. You're going super local, but with that national brand is what
isn't that? Yeah, that's my ideal clientele actually. Yeah. So I want someone that has at least a regional presence with multiple locations.
Yeah.
Because then we can scale. We can just rinse and repeat that same kind of playbook.
That makes sense.
So we do, it's like we worked with 24-Hour Fitness for years, and they would have 400 some locations, and every time they had a new store location, but we're popping up, we do a coming soon ad on the side of a box truck. And then once it's open, we go over top of that coming soon, but now open, and run that around, collect data, retarget people. And then we would actually have the gym location as a conversion zone. So I can actually tell you if they saw the ad and then went into the gym. So it's like, hey, we actually, from this person seeing this, they actually went in there.
So you must have some type of software on the truck that has the billboard or that has the ad on it as well?
We had they were beacons. So they were like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth sniffers. It was like a device that actually like a lot of hackers use. We weren't doing it for that reason. We were just doing it to like capture the data. Now you can buy the data overlapping on the GPS waypoints. So I can say exactly who's there. So we can do it. We can do it through an app now.
Okay. And who's they and where are they getting the data from? And then like,
it's location data.
Yeah.
Anything on your cell phone. So you take a picture on your phone and it says, okay, I'm in, Portland, Oregon. Like your location data is getting stored and sold.
Yeah.
That's like from Apple, sales, everybody.
Yeah.
And it's all opt-in data. But like, you hit that agree button and there's this long contract that you don't ever read. Well, that's what they're doing. It's called for it. They're trying to find an ATM on, for Wells Fargo. Okay, they're selling they're selling that data. And notice all of that. So all that gets compiled. And so then but for us, the magic happens like when you see the ad in the real world and then get targeted online.
Yeah.
So there's this, it's just a psychological element, because like a rectangle isn't something you'd see normally in nature. You walk into the woods, you're not going to see a rectangle. So that's why all billboards are all rectangles, because your eyes naturally gravitate to them.
Oh, that's interesting.
And not only so you have this billboard that's the eyes naturally would gravitate towards. Then you put something in motion, which anytime you throw a ball or something, right? Like the emotion captures your eyes. So now you combine those elements, and then you're driving, and you literally have this big, huge vehicle in front of you that you're going to try to avoid and go around. That ad's sitting right in front of you, and it's higher than a car because it starts at 3 feet.
Yeah.
Giving you like my whole sales pitch here.
Well, there's a lot. It's not too, yeah, I want to hear it, but it sounds like there's a lot of psychology and tons of it.
And then you put a compelling ad on there. The other thing is like, then it got into creative, which is the actual advertisement. Most people want to put like 100 words on it. Well, you're not going to read it.
Yeah.
And so it comes down to like the rule of thumb is like 7 or less words, but you have to create a lasting impression, your brand, and then have a call to action within those 7 words.
Do you give me an example of that?
A lot of like some of the best ads are just like black backgrounds and white font, and throw a question on there because they'll search the question.
Oh,
yeah. So like, what is Stoic and Steel? And what is Stoic and Steel? I don't know. Then Google it real quick, right? And book your pop up.
I like that.
Yes. It's very simple. It's same thing with like you're doing like websites or landing pages. More simpler landing pages the more conversions you get. You know, people always want to, and then anytime you get with like a entrepreneur, they want to put pictures and videos and everything else in there, and it just becomes more distracting, and then they're convert less.
That is something that I have known, like different colors and this, that, and the other grabs attention. But I'm like, there's so many dynamics that how do you keep it all together to say that this is the effective way to do it? And it's all by compiling data and things of that nature is what you're saying, right? And just paying attention to trends and what works and what doesn't.
And listening to your customers too, because like a lot of times we'll do an ad, like let's say it's a digital truck, right? We'll do it at like a convention or something. Well, they're like, hey, I'm moving to another convention where we do 100 conventions a year. Right? Okay, cool. We can hit all these locations. We'll sign them out. Like COVID right now, like, well, not right now, but when we did that work through COVID, we worked at a ton of hospitals. And a lot of hospitals, like, we actually don't even want to market anymore because we can't even have the stuff we're not even doing anymore. But we don't have enough nurses. And so, like, they're like, can you help us hire nurses? I was like, yeah, I can do that. And what happened is a lot of nurses were quitting and everything, right? Because of zero conditions. And what they found is like the best employees were actually worked for another hospital. Of course, it's so like, okay, they're like, can you guys do some guerrilla tactics here? Oh, yeah, we can do that. So we would take our digital trucks, go outside a hospital and like a now hiring nursing ad. And then if you threw like a big signing bonus on it, like $30,000 signing bonus, we put a QR code on it and they'd all scan the QR code. Yeah, and we had that, we could track QR photos, like use our own QR codes, we'd see exactly track and click on it, went to the website and that'd fly. And we had nurses like coming out, just scanning it. Yeah. Within an hour of going outside those facilities, we will capture all the data in that. Yeah.
And so are you creating the QR code, the landing page, the website all in-house?
We get the bigger brands, they all have their own brand style guides and creative formats that they use. But we actually worked with another company. It was about Redefining Creative, and it's an AI company now. But it was actually helping them design the ads because they were used to doing like digital ads online. But that same digital ad was too much on a truck. And so kind of simplifying it to help that. A lot of times we come alongside these big corporations, can't turn on our really fast enough anyways. And so we would just help them. We give it to them that approve it. That was right.
Because they're so bogged down at the corporate end of things is why they can't operate fast enough, is what you're saying.
Yeah, a lot of times, like in just in media in general, like every media buyer agency wants to get a good deal, so they're all worried about the price and location and everything, and the last thing they work on is actually the creative. So they finally get it, events in 2 days, and they're like, oh, we had to look creative for it, and they're like, oh crap, our designer's off or he's busy or whatever. And so we're like, okay, here's an ad that we put together based on your creative style, right? Guidelines. We built it for.
Would you say that that's a little bit backwards of going about things? So totally, yeah. Because the sales and is the driver of revenue. Revenue is the blood of your business, and then
but they have their budget, they have to meet and their ad spend, and so it's so backwards. But yeah, so that's where. But if at the end of the day, like you have a bad ad and you're on Times Square, one of those digital billboards at Times Square, no one can read it, and it's not going to be effective. You're just wasting your money. Yeah. And so same thing for us. Like they haven't used our format before because we've spearheaded this whole industry that before I started, it didn't exist. Like some advertising on trucks. Like, what is this? And it's so like if it didn't work, they would blame it on us anyways. And so we're incentivized, like, okay, I want to make sure this ad works. I want to make sure this works because then we can scale with you guys. Yeah. So we would have blunt, honest conversations like, I can't read this. And there's an old guy that I met. He was a old billboard guy and goes, you know how I tell people how like banana is effective? At this point, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take advice from anybody I can at this. Yeah, Larry. Like I say, made the same mistakes. He goes, take your ad, put on a piece of paper, okay, by 11, flip it up, show it for 8 seconds, and put it back down. And whatever you remember is a good indication of how effective the ad is.
Whatever you remember.
Yeah. So as somebody, I flip that to you, really, and then you have a sheet of paper, and I put it back down, and like, what was your takeaway from it?
I like that.
And so that was a good indication. And then we did a couple more studies, and you read things left to right. So your call to action should always be at the rear of the vehicle. So as it's passing, you might want a picture up there or something, but the last thing you see is over here. So Oh, we always put a call to action on every rear. Or to see our trucks, you can see the QR codes on the very backdrop corner for you. Yeah. Again, back to the psychology. It's all psychology. Yeah. And it's interesting because I was never into psychology. And then as I got into marketing, I'm like, it's all psychology. That nerd love it. And sales the same way. Sales loves psychology too. Yeah. How you present things. What are some of the failures that you've gone about with your, like, an ad campaign that was just, you thought it was going to be the biggest fish and then turned out to be just a little guppy and took your worm and got off your hook, you know? Truthfully, like, it's interesting because like everyone goes after these like sexy companies, right? They want the Amazons of the world, the Nikes, the T-Mobiles and Verizons, because they'll do big nationwide campaigns. But when you're a small company, those companies will actually bankrupt you. So you get these big, $600,000 deals, $1 million deals. They don't want to pay you for 6 months. And so you're out there cash flowing everything. You're paying all those drivers, you're paying all the materials. And if you don't have a huge line of credit, a lot of times when we with banks, they're not going to loan up your huge receivable. It's more than 20% of what your total receivables are. They're not going to loan against it. And so they want to take these big, audacious, like huge campaigns and loan against it. Now it's a credible company and you can factor them, things like that. But then you're losing 7% of your 20 just to be able to help out this campaign a lot. And you're not able to negotiate. Well, at a point I had you, I was like, I'm not going to be able to, we can't do this. But in the beginning, I was like, yeah, I'll do this. You're seeing these huge dollar signs, commas, everything. And there's time where I almost was like, dude, I'm not, I still big up truckers to make payroll. And these guys said they're going to pay me a month ago or 3 months ago. They didn't do it. And so they hounded them and like, oh, our PO numbers didn't match. And they give you all this like rundown. Why didn't I want to pay you? And they finally had doing it, but it's, yeah, I've seen it happen quite a few times for these guys who run these smart agencies that run these campaigns and they're like, we get paid. And sorry, we don't pay you till we get paid. Yeah. It's like that's, so the guy at the very bottom of the short pulls one paying for these huge nationwide campaigns. Wow. So that was a huge lesson. And so now I had to try to get production up front. It's like, hey, it's going to cost me this much money just park. Like I need this money up front before I'll even give you a line of credit. But yeah, so I don't feel like I'm not your bank. But yeah, and then they want to nickel and dime you on the rate anyways. It's like got lower margins and then they don't want to pay you for 6 months. How you go about pricing it? To me, this is like what you do is, there's definitely the physical end of things, but it's also you're paid per a lot of your intellectual property, I would say, or processes. And like one, how do you price structure? And then also, what's keeping these larger corporations from hiring a team of Rolling Adz, that be in-house, just go vertical with it? There's a lot of moving parts behind it. That seems not just there's the actual production of things like printing and installing. And we have a ton of networks, man. We have thousands of installers across the country and we could turkey within like a day or two. So like you give me an ad you want to run in Las Vegas. Okay, I can rent it type or an ship it. I'm an installer doing it tomorrow morning. Yeah. So your key is that you're for as gelling on the spot. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, speed, convenience, quality, like as we want to provide all that. Yeah. Damn, is the other half of my question. Price structure, price structure, and how you go about your price. You said your margins are going to be smaller on larger multinational corporations versus maybe something smaller, or alluded to that. Well, yeah. And when you have like sellers that are selling for you, they want to make a commission too, right? Or a lot of times it's base plus commission to do a base salary and then the commission on deals. And so I used to go after like, okay, the number, right? Like I want to make 20 grand in this deal or 30 grand or whatever it was. But then you're like, well, how much my actual margin? So I was only 2%, right? Or something. And so at the end of the day, you're doing this huge campaign. You're only making, it seems like a lot of money. Cause when you weren't making anything, like 30 grand was a ton of money. And that's when I realized like, okay, I got to go after percentages. Like if I want to have 40% of everything we do is actually an expense in operations, then I want to have a 30% of cost of goods sold. I'm up with a 30% margin. So then I got to charge 70% margins on everything, right? Like for an example, and different products are a little different, right? But at the end of the day, like what is the bottom percentage I want to make? Not the number, but the actual percentage. And so that's easier to scale that way. Yeah, because there was a time where we were doing a ton more in revenue, but we're actually making almost the same we were the year before. I'm like, well, what's going on here? And you look at all the numbers and it's like, okay, we're just not making the margin as we were. And so percentages is huge. Yeah. So, and I think, it goes back biblically too, right? Like, it goes back to what, like biblically, like a tenth, right, is a percent. It's only 10%, right? Yeah. So it's not about the number, but it's about the
Percentage. I like that. So where would you put your salespeople in that percentage wise?
Sales, I try to be under 10%. So sales goes 10% of like if we're at a 7% margin, let's just use that number, then 10% of that would go to sales, right? So now we're at 60, then we have a 40 for your hub, call it operations, everything else. Okay. And we'd be left with a 20% margin.
Gotcha.
So I try to give each department as a percentage.
Yeah. So the salespeople aren't a part of the cost and goods sold. They're just
well, actually, now you see that now they are. So that's part of like how we do it. Yeah, but that makes sense. Yeah. So they put that line up on top line.
Yeah, that's good. So how did you learn all of this in business school, or is this just kind of back to the mentorship? And
it's mentorship. It's all of a sudden you get a tax bill that's like, I just worked my butt off for this whole year and there goes 40%. Yeah. It's like, okay, how do I change this up? And that was another thing, like learning about like I had no clue about money or anything, or assets or debt or anything, like how to leverage that. And that's all stuff like I was like, say like phase 2 and 3 of business, like get the business operating, get it making money, get the structure, get the SOPs in place, get it to where like you can clone yourself in the sense and take a step back. And like, because there was so many years where like I'd gone vacations or something, or I didn't vacation because like I had to work, right? I could never unplug from the business, and finally got to a point where like, okay, I can unplug. And like, it was like one of the most beautiful things. It's like I go on vacation with my family, turn my phone off, come back, and we actually made money when I was gone. I was like, this is awesome. Like, now I have a business that,
an actual business, something that's equitable that you could one day sell.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's one thing about my trade. A farrier is, it seems difficult to duplicate yourself because a lot of time people view you as like the independent surgeon, or they want that person in specific. Do you have any advice on people in that role, like where you're the person that people are wanted? How do you duplicate yourself?
You guys sell your procedure, not your presence.
Yeah.
And so like I want people to buy my systems, not my presence. I don't need to be there. Yeah. My employees are better at the job, not than I. And that's our one big day.
Yeah.
Like I have my CTOs. So, I mean, like you guys, it's a genius. And so like, I can do his job and I don't want to do his job, but he's the best person at it. And he's also got everything, his part of his department now it's got systems in it. So he could go on vacation. Someone can plug into a spot and they know exactly what they need to do. And there's checks for everything too.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So building that system up is awesome. And it's such a blessing when you can teach somebody what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like if you're an expert in your space, like you could teach somebody else to do it, and then you're training people how to do it. And I love would be able to pass down knowledge. You talk about mentorship. I see a lot of older gentlemen their motivation isn't money anymore. Maybe a tiny degree, but really it's like, how do I pass down what I've learned, my tribal knowledge, and give it to the younger generation that's going to come up?
Yeah, and part of the legacy.
I know. So when they know that, hey, you're the best in business and you're going to provide good quality, and they're giving you referrals to everybody, like, hey, he's got a team of people he's working with.
Yeah,
I think you see that a lot in just other types of trades where, hey, the owner did a great job working on this one. He's just a solo entrepreneur, but then as soon as you hire people, the quality just took it. It just tanked.
you see that all the time. Yeah.
And then that's a whole nother element to like management, is just like, how do you hold those standards? Right?
Yeah. What would be one takeaway on being a good manager, being a good leader of selling your procedure, your presence?
It's following a procedure and holding those standards too. Because as soon as I don't hold myself to the standards that I hold everybody else to, then I devalue everything, and then just fall right to my standards.
Yeah.
And it comes into decision making, ethics, and everything.
Yeah. There's a lot of examples on that I could give, but just making sure that, whatever you set as standards, you got to make sure that's getting passed down. Like we're a company where we're always learning. That's one of our core values.
If we're not learning, we're not growing.
And so individually and within the business space.
Yeah. It's cool. But we have a whole like AI chat in our company. Like, hey, this is a new AI that we're working on. This is a new, like, check out this new feature. It's always encouraging. Every Friday morning we do someone gives a lesson on what they learned. Like it could even be like a personal thing that they're doing. Like one of our guys used to be a former chef. And so he'll like teach a recipe or something, but it's just cool. Like it's cool knowledge and it's interesting because like you won't think that apply to like marketing or anything. And then you'll be in a conversation with somebody, like when you're doing a discovery call and like, oh yeah, I gotta make dinner for my kids today. And like, yeah, I got this cool recipe we just did as a company.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. You learn, I love learning and sharing books and ideas and their philosophies, and even in sales and marketing, like things are always changing. And so you can keep everybody up on those ideas and everything.
And that's how you remain an expert in your space, even though you may not be the best at procedures anymore in your business. Sounds like you still are an expert in the overall knowledge of the space.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the big like takeaways was I read a book called Traction, and then there's a sequel to that. It's about the entrepreneurial operating system.
Yeah.
And then the other part, the follow up to that was called Rocket Fuel. Well, Rocket Fuel was about visionaries and integrators. And so like when I read that book, I'm like, wow, I'm like listening to my own biography here, like as a visionary. And the other half of that is the integrator, the person that actually takes these big ideas and visions and then puts them into practice and makes the procedures. And it ended up being like a marriage book for me because I didn't realize like my wife and I run businesses, but like we could never do business together. It was actually like kind of a struggle, like a friction point.
Yeah.
Because I had these ideas and she's like, well, how are we going to do this? Yeah. Or she would say no right away. And shit on my dreams.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. I'm a terrible systems person, but I'm with you. Like I can see a big picture. I just don't know how to do it.
I read that book and then I'm like, oh, this is how her brain thinks. Like this is okay. And so it works out great. So we got into real estate together and that's like a side thing. And yeah, like, okay, I could see these projects and these houses and like, take out walls, remodel and stuff. And then she can do the numbers, plug it in, get all the systems working. And
So all this stuff that you're probably not the best at.
which I shouldn't be doing anyways. Like, yeah, but I talk about like being in your flow. When you're in your flow and I can just thrive, like that is something that bogs you out. It's in the numbers. I'm looking at spreadsheets, like how much can we make? And let's move on to where's the next project.
Yeah.
Like shaking hands, making deals. Like I love that. Negotiating, I could be that all day long. An extrovert that way. But when she can handle the other half of that stuff, it works great. So I hired my COO is an integrator. He gets right into details and we're sharing our knowledge of what we're learning. It's like, okay, check out this program we're doing and this is how it's going to work and function.
I imagine that communication line is pivotal and something that you've learned not only in marriage or through marriage, but also like in your business. How do you keep that communication open?
So we have it's called our same page meeting. Yeah. Once a week we get together, spend a couple hours and here's where we're at. This is we call them our rocks, like our 90-day objectives that we're trying to do. And then we put little tasks that are going to get us to there. And it's cool because like, it's just keep us aligned and then apply it to marriage. Like Sundays at church and like I'm coaching T-ball now and love that. But after that, like had the kids to bed and I just sit down with my wife and we talk like, hey, how am I doing this week? Like kind of get on that same page. Like I'm checking in as a husband. Where am I doing? Where did I do good this week? Where did I do bad? What can I work on? And you getting that kind of feedback.
Yeah.
And so just like taking those same kind of structures and metrics that you do in business and applying that to your life.
Yeah.
For someone that is, call me like ADD or something, structure is so good for me. Yeah. I need structure. And then when I know like a calendar is booked, but I know what is going to happen, I can plan for it and then throw ideas and be creative into those.
Is there ever a time where structure seems dry and your creative element or your artistic element to being a visionary kind of gets sucked away?
There was a time that way where like call it habit stacking.
Yeah.
So if I'm in like a creative mindset, like we're doing marketing or something, don't schedule like a meeting that's going to be going to drag me down, right? It's going to put me in two different mindsets. So like we do marketing, I like theme my days, literally like finance Fridays, marketing Mondays. We do sales on Wednesdays. Operations are usually Tuesdays. We'll do our same page meetings too. Thursdays, a lot of systems. We'll do finance Fridays and fellowship Fridays. That's when I pour in. I try to help other people. Like no more my purpose on that side.
Well, with that, I think that you have structure where things are chaos in your schedule. You're able to say, I have these days open or I don't. and things open up or they close, and you're not pushing things around. That provides margins so that you're not overstressing yourself, and then you're able to be more present with your family and be the better husband, father, leader that you need to be in that space.
Yeah. Everything from, my phone shuts off at a certain time, or unless we're in my favorites, like I'm not, my phone won't ring. Explain, but
Yeah, no, fine does. Yeah. Most does it. You don't ever text me back. Like, I'm gonna do your text. I won't do your text till in the morning.
Yeah. What is so good to protect what is important to you.
and we try to make a point to like not be in front of our phones in front of our kids, and like that's something that, if you're off at 5 and kids go to bed at 7:30, I have 2.5 hours a day to pour into my kids. That's it.
Yeah.
By the time they're like 15, they're going to be more worried about their friends and everything else. So I don't have that much time to actually be there with them. And you know, as they be here now. Yeah, exactly. So that's like my family time. And so I'm tucking them in and eating meals together, and practicing t-ball in the backyard. Like those are like, that's why I'm doing it. That's my legacy, right? Yeah, kids.
Making tough calls in business as a leader, how was that translated to your daily life? Like tackling, because I think as men, we can often make the tough calls in business once we get to a point of competency and say, no, this is what needs to happen, but can be a little bit more difficult around personal life.
I think it just comes to being genuine and authentic to yourself. I'll give you an example here. Like a guy called me the other day, and he goes, I have this he goes, my business, he's a agency, and I really like it too, and it knows I'm faith-based. And he goes, hey, I have a client that I want to see if we want to run. I'm struggling, and then it's a few $100,000 to do this campaign. And when I got married, my wife she's worked for the DA, and she used to do a lot with like sex trafficking, like putting criminals in jail and stuff. And a lot of that was tied to like strip clubs. And so she said, she goes, I just have the really bad, like, I would never want you to do a strip club at. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't. And I have a daughter. I'm like, that's the last thing I want to see is my daughter going to sex trafficking. So, of course, this guy calls me, and I'm like, what's the client? And he goes, it's a strip club. And it's a nationwide strip club. And I'm like, and he goes, but there's tons of money. These guys are going to pay it. They'll pay up front, everything. And, and it's interesting because, like, I could feel he's desperate, right? And I was like, no, I'm not going to run it, dude. Like, that's not who I am. And that's not what I support. Like, at the end of the day, like, I had these big messages that we can run across the world or across the country. And if I don't align with that, that's not how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do that. I had a sales rep, that truthfully did that one time. Like, she knew of strip club owner and did an ad. Like, I was gone and did it. And just, you had this like guilt and shame, like, about it. And it just didn't feel right at all. And I'm like, no, we're not doing this. Like, that's not who we are. So you got to be able to draw that line in the sand. And that's in life and business or friendship and stuff. Like, there's people that go against your values or your morals, and you got to be able to say no. I'm like, hey, this is it's not worth it. I don't care what you throw at me. Like, it's not worth it. Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. But it's standing for something bigger than yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I truly think that happiness will elude you until you stand for something bigger than yourself. Yes. And show up in the way that you're called to be. Yeah. It seems like you know a little bit about sex trafficking on that end of things. Because I think we're in the strip club capital of the world. There's a lot of acceptance towards that. How does being a dancer, how does that translate to sex trafficking? Do you know?
I don't. I just know there's a lot of like pimps involved with it, and then they make more money basically when they're into that side of the business. So and just having a daughter and like ever thinking that you get into that and that just
yeah. Well, the biggest thing in my mind is not knowing. I have 2 daughters as well. Is that them not locking in their identity of who God is calling them to be fully, even though, or shouldn't, it's that, do you go down that route? I don't think it'd be your fault or my fault, nor
casting a shame with guilt in it. I'll love them through that. And that's,
and that's the problem with religion, right? I think ultimately, or turns off a lot of people, is that it's not so much about it's not about doing right to earn your way.
but it's God's love and kindness. Romans 2:4. It's God's love kindness that brings us to repentance through that.
Yeah, we're all sinners, right? Yeah, and yeah, you don't judge a sinner by if you point a finger, you get 3 point back at you, right?
Yeah.
He's perfect. Cast the first stone, right? Absolutely. But yeah, if as a father, like, yeah, you get to speak identity in your daughter, so too, right? Yeah, ultimately, like, we get to teach him at least the best path that we know forward, right? And align with Christ. And we all are, every circumstance we put ourselves in is just a choice we've made, really, or a series of decisions that have got us there. And so our kids are going to go off that path at some point, right? We just hope they come back on it, right? And no different than my journey. Like, yeah, they go off and pass. I'm not perfect by any means, but I try to align myself and keep in that alignment and having that discipline each day to, like, okay, pray. I got to be grateful for where I'm at today, and
push it out, like, into showing up for why I'm here. Exactly. And those are all a overpour from God's grace that's been shown on you. Do you have like a 1 minute, quick what is the gospel that you can share, or you like share to yourself? I know for myself, I like you use it, we use first. Yeah. I came to Christ through a very cerebral way of searching for how to do things right and better. And then I'm right now in this, I don't know, I walk away from the church for 5 years or so. And now I'm realizing the grace of God. It is God's love and kindness that brings us to repentance, and not the actions that we can do, the religion through it. And I always knew that it's different when you live it out and experience that, I think, and experience a community coming around you and loving you and speaking identity into you. So I would say that the gospel is a covering between our spirit that love, a covering that over our spirit that we'll never be able to do right to earn our way to heaven, but God's love and our faith in that allows us to have eternity, because we're eternal beings. However you look at it, we're going to be here around, for eternity, and it's our choice and that's God's love to have free will within that. And the blood of Jesus is the veil within that. Like, there's a lot of arguments however you cut it and dice it around it, but to me that is the biggest quick take on it. But I like that. Probably not gonna be as what's that? Probably won't be as articulate as you. So for me, it's just I would just, like, if I had to sum up like the gospel, it would be just my experience. And like I think I mentioned about my father, like, so growing up with like not having a father in your life, like I felt like I had this like hole in my heart, like this missing, like not worthy, not loved, right? And so a lot of my life, I'm like chasing women or whatever, and just to, like, you want to feel loved, right? You want to feel like someone cares for you, and you feel that with substances and every other type of thing. And that was one thing, like when I did find Christ, it was like, oh, hey, someone loves me unconditionally. Like, someone wants to see the best for me. Like, this is what I've always wanted in the Father, right? And I don't think any human's going to do that, like, because we're all imperfect, we're all sinners. And so for me, that's what filled that out, right? It's like, okay, like, hey, I'm making mistakes here, but I know there's a higher power that wants the best for me. It wants the desires of my heart, but wants to see me do good too, and like help him, and just loves me. Like, hey, I'm making a bad mistake, but he's not just gonna ridicule me and, push me down, but he's okay. He wants to build me up, be there for you. And as I became a father, that's been one cool thing too. It's like, this is what love is. Absolutely. And so it's cool, like, to be that dad now and be like, okay, I can be the dad that I wanted my dad to be. Okay. And so it's like summing up the gospel, that's what I would say. It's just pure love, or you love somebody and there's no intention behind it. Like, it's just, hey, I want the best for you. Hey, you're screwing up here. I'll let you know, but I ultimately love you. I still want to see you do good. And, you got to make these decisions, but that doesn't change. Just always son. You're still my son and daughter. You're showing time. There's nothing that you can do to run away from that love, but
there's also the rejection of it. We always have that pre-choice walking into it or not. And I'm always here for you too. Right? Like, yeah, it's this thing. Like if my kids
Do something that I don't agree with, like, I let them know, but I'm not gonna like push them away. I'm not gonna like, no, I still love you. I'm still here for you.
yeah, fatherhood has definitely shown me what it is like that. I grew up not knowing my biological father, and in a way, I think that I had that same pull in that sense. Even though I had a good man that was there, present, we had raised me, I still had that all, and I think that plagues a lot of our nation, society as a whole. But having your own children, knowing just what we talked about, that you're always going to be there, and shifted my perspective on who God was or is and always will be, and to saying in my internal dialogue, you're saying, no, God is a good father, and that he is there for you, because he always thinks like, when are you leaving? Things of that nature. Oh, I have to perform to earn the love, and that's just not right. That isn't the gospel, is it? Yeah. I had a few notes here on the Stoic side. Okay, so it's held Stoic and steel being on the trade, and Stoic being wisdom to craft your life by. And I believe that Jesus was the ultimate Stoic in that. And one thing that was on my heart this morning is, don't do things because they are cool, but for your calling. And then I just saw a quote from the Pope, all people: the greatest risk in life is to waste it outside of God's plan. Do you have any like wisdom takes on finding your calling, what our calling is, and purpose and things of that nature?
So like, we talked about my father. Like I always wanted, like when I started business, right? I always wanted to be proud of me, right? I wanted to like show up and like make millions of dollars. But hey, Dad, you're proud of me. Like never happened, right? And so like that was very like at a certain point, it almost becomes like kind of sad and sad for myself. I'm like, this isn't fulfilling anymore. Like money isn't gonna serve a purpose, right? Or not gonna fill that void. And so finding purpose was interesting because it's like, who am I best equipped to help? And the best person I knew to help is the person I used to be. Like that lost kid that didn't know anything. It was partying and wild and, doing drugs, chasing women, all that stuff, right? And then the other side of me is like, I'm really good at business. Like I've been crushing business. Yeah, God's given me that gift. And so like, how do I help? And then like put that guy that I used to be in alignment with Christ and helps him with business. Like, okay, well, why don't I just be a faith-based entrepreneur that helps other people grow businesses? And it took a while to figure that out. And then I'll push into that. Like I've filled me up and that lights me up.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I do now is I love mentoring people. They helping kids. I always call kids, they're usually in their 20s, which is, when I started, I felt like a kid back then, but yeah.
Well, I think the kids' mentality.
Yeah, and mentoring is so fun. Like I love it because I learn more from mentoring. They learn from me. Hopefully, I learned so much for that. Just these things. I mean, there's some kids I mentored where it's just like, man, I wish I was you back then. Like you're just so dialed, and it just I get choked up sometimes. It's cool.
That's awesome.
But I help. Yeah, I started running like a sales training now where I don't charge, but just like it's so fun when you can help people. Yeah. And, I think about happiness, and I used to buy stuff and be materialistic in a lot of ways. And that is, it's so like, it's so temporary. It's not even funny. And I think about true happiness for me is like when I can help other people. Like I am the most happy when I can like help somebody or help their business. And then they're like, yeah, I'm crushing it now in business. And they call me, I'm like, yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, you're sure. Well,
yeah, you just give you a cheer for them. And like that lights me up more than anything. Like when I have a friend who's been stuck in insurance for years and they finally like, I can't take it anymore. I want to quit. And then like, I want to get in business, which we do. And like, we put a plan together and like go after it. And hey, we broke even this month. And it's only my third month. I'm like, it's huge, man.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, let's go after it. Let's keep the momentum going. Let's not stop, right? Yeah. Keeping that drive going. I could be a little pushy sometimes because I have a crazy drive, but I want to live life to the fullest. I don't want to die and have like still energy to live. Like I want to be depleted.
Yeah. My grandpa used to always say, he goes, I'd rather wear away than rust away. And that's always stuck with me.
Absolutely. He's like, I'm not gonna sit there and die. I want to be doing something my whole life.
Yeah. And I don't think in retirement for that reason. I think they should always be out doing something. Yeah, have enough money where you can have unlimited creativity, do whatever you want.
But also be able to just continue pouring at people.
Yeah.
And help people. And that makes me so happy when I can do that.
And you can do it more effectively when you have systems and you're structured and to success within that.
And I met you just talked about you now. It seems like you're so dialed in on that the mentorship is, you can see where people need to step up and do things of that nature. That's pretty cool. So when is your time to pour into these people? Friday fellowship.
Yeah.
And what are you intentionally doing?
But it's not just Friday. It's just I feel like I have a time like after my kids go to bed. There's like a 7 to 8 window where usually my wife's finishing up some things for work. And I always have like an hour call with somebody, and it's like clockwork. It's usually an intuition and that's like, I always think of God on stage. If I ever get like goosebumps or something, I feel like that's like a sign from God.
Yeah.
Or just a little inclination of like, hey, why don't you give this guy a call? Even talk to him in a while. He's on your heart, and there's a reason for it. That's and if your heart's signed to love, and then there's something there, right? And just giving that person a call and talking with them. And there's times where like he calls me like, dude, I'm so glad you called me, man. Or they're going through something, and it's like, hey, I can't tell you what to do, but I can share my experience. Yeah. And then like sales training, like I really just want to help faith-based entrepreneurship. People like, how can you fulfill your purpose in starting a business and not just go after the money? Because it is so unfulfilling when you just go after money, and there's just always this longing for more. And I think it was like Rockefeller that was like, yeah, how much is enough money? He's like, just a little more. I don't want to be that guy that's 8 years old chasing a bag of money. That's not, I'd rather give it out and help people grow. And if your hands are open, this is one thing I've learned in Christ, is like the more your hands are open, the more God can pour into your hands, but more that can fall on other people too. I love that philosophy.
Yeah. Is it? It's not your money, is it?
No, that's not. Like there's times where I'm just like, dude, I don't feel worthy enough for you to have this. Right? And like, talk about tithing, like if it's God's money, like me and my wife, this is like the first when we first became married, like we combined bank accounts, we had like a tithe account. I was like, you're taking 10% of your money and putting it in yours and give it away to people? Like, that's crazy. We're not doing that well right now. Right? It's interesting because the more you hold on to that, you're in such a like this, the less comes to you. And it's happened so many, like, now we built a system on it. But there's times where like, you're like, oh, things are going good, or we're, uncertain times, right? So you start holding on to money more, right? We should be doing this. And then the more you do that, like the more you're like, I call it, remember my funnel clogs. Whereas like, it's like, oh, I haven't given away enough money. And so when you give away enough money where it doesn't hurt anymore, like you better like, kind of like, fuck it, like God's got this now, right? Like, and it just comes in.
And it's cool. Especially because you already have the systems of your business set up. You've done that, and you should be tithing all the way through that. But all of those systems, and I think God is a God of organization and not of chaos. He's very clear in that. And when you allow for him to be able to work more effectively in that, then you can really set that up. I love that analogy of your hands. That's
it's fun too, because like I always try to like, we have a tithe account, and like there's always like, there's like $1,000 in there or whatever's left. Like I'll take it on cash and I just give it to people. Like it's not my money. I give it out to people. Yeah, it's like, it's fun. Like it's homeless guy, and some people like, oh, broken my homeless, or you buy alcohol or whatever. I'm like, I don't care. So yeah, so someone's asking for it. Like, they need it more than I do.
bro. That's so true. And you never know when that last overdose is the last one. When rock bottom is. My perspective on that is like, rock bottom is never rock bottom. It's a matter of when you're ready to change. You make the trends and not change. Like, yeah. And God gives and takes away at that. Absolutely.
Now we try to say God bless my everywhere too. Yeah, exactly. I mean, sure. Go out and share the gospel.
Yeah. Don't just away willy-nilly, right? Yeah. One thing that I definitely fought through was being a head case when I was younger, just not, knowing my identity and the love and grace that God has for us all and myself. And that's something that we recently went through was an Iron Virtue event. It was more of a freedom ministry event. And I found like true identity through that. I definitely I wish that more people would go through it or be willing to accept that and see that, because it's just life changing. And in our group, we've seen it change so many families. Was when the head changes, head of the family, the leader of the family changes, the whole family calls soup. It's amazing. You have any takeaways from Iron Virtue?
A lot, man. I mean, I just like it was so impactful because like there's just so many things there's just a lot of broken guys. That was like one of my biggest I just didn't say biggest. There's so many takeaways, but it's interesting when you get a group of guys and you start to get a little vulnerable and you realize, oh, you got dad issues, I got dad issues. Like we all have messed up family. We're all broken. We're all broken. Okay, well, this isn't like, and you don't feel alone, right? And I think that's the beauty about community is when you have guys that can come together and you're like, hey, we can all share our weaknesses, and in your weaknesses, that's where God always finds strength too. So like, hey, I've been through this too, and like each of those experiences, and I mean, I'm probably in like 6 community groups now, like just different guys groups that happen on the bi-weekly or monthly basis, and it's just like I need that. That's what fills me out, because it's like it's so easy to get in your head. Yeah, wow. The Iron Virtue was amazing. I showed up like, I mean, just some ways that just like, just you give yourself. I call it my bitch buddies. Like I know I need to work out in the morning, or I just, if I got 3 kids, I'm gonna go up the bed's more thrilled out. It's just as a fast night. I think, I didn't get back to sleep right away. So I can give myself that experience. After that, I'm like, okay, I'm get back on my routine. Like, cause it's these little cracks, I think, what happen, and they just start to wire. Oh, I didn't wake up at 5 this morning to work out. So the next day you do it again, and it just becomes, a new habit, right? But yeah, it's been awesome, man. And that's kind of where I found more about purpose too. Like, when you can touch your head to your heart, right? That was like one of my huge takeaways. It's like going through the evolution of like, what does your mind look like? And as a business owner, someone that's got ADD, I think that's my superpower area is ADD. A lot of people think it's a detriment. But like, visualizing my mind was like kind of a racetrack, right? And I used to race and everything. So it's interesting. And then like, okay, well, I got to take pit stops. I got to fill up the car. I got to, put your tires on once in a while. And like, he's like, it's cool. Like, bro, you can visualize internally who you are and like connect that to your heart. And you look at a heart that like, I remember like when we did that, my heart was damaged. And my heart was like, and people like laughing at me from the outside. And then to like open the door of your heart and see how beautiful it is inside, and like your family and everyone that loves you. It's magical. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well, there's people here that need to hear your story too, right? Because as soon as you open that door, like the whole like show that how my heart just exploded. It was just like light shining. Like, okay, I got it for telling myself these stories that they are trying to find me and just share it. Yeah, that you're not worthless. That like you have something to do, and there's purpose in your life. And it's kind of cool. I like kept finding out the pieces of like, okay, what am I good at? What do I know? What's my experience? And like, how do I take that and then share it to the world?
Yeah. And you're worthy because you're willing, not because of anything that you can do. It's already been done.
If I can help change one person's life, then it's a wick life. Yeah, I mean, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, for me, it was like just fighting depression, and like when things were real bad at the end of my marriage, was like, hey, my sociopath and all of this, like just bouncing off the walls mentally. Really, that was just me believing a lie. And I think so much of, AD, and I think there's a place for medical diagnosis and things of that nature. God definitely works in that way. I think a lot of it, though, from a psychological end of things, can be identity, and not knowing who we truly are created to be, and not having people speaking life into you. And that's one of the biggest things with my mission here is to speak life, because I've been Paul. killing people, and now I'm like, no, I'm not gonna, well, I haven't killed people, but like with my words, I've spoken enough terrible words into people that the complete opposite is the only way to go. And I think that we find if we can change our mentality around that, and not be hiding behind the masks, then freedom is there. Yeah. Yeah. It's all a choice. Well, this is the Stoic 7. It's a portion of the podcast that I ask all guests. First one is, what is your best financial advice?
We're not taught money in school. No. Learn money. Read the book, Psychology of Money, The Millionaire Mindset. Read books about money.
Yeah.
That is something that, like, once I learned that, it's just opened up huge. The Richest Man in Babylon, read that book. Like, read books first, probably would be the best thing I can tell you.
I love that. Oh yeah, financial advice. Yeah, that's it all.
Every dollar you make, like, we live in a society where, like, everybody wants to, like, make money, and then they want to, like, just go buy fancy cars and feel
that full.
And so you look rich, but you're poor. And they're like, every dollar I make is like a little soldier that goes out and makes more money. So it's like, soon as I make money, like, what can I best to send in assets or that go on to you? And it's real estate, gold, crypto, stocks, whatever, collectibles. So you want, like, 7 of the asset classes you can be in, true asset classes, I guess. But yeah, learn money, like, actually learn how it works.
Yeah.
And learn the financial system and learn what a fiat currency is. And that's something I did a lot during COVID, was just learn, like, hey, how does money work?
Yeah. I like that. I've heard that from a lot of people, learn how money works. But I often go, okay, well, what's the first starting end of things? Like, okay, get a budget and start reduce your debt. Is that, and I mean, I would say start a budget, reduce your debt, but before that, have an income. Yeah, on your income, reduce your debt, and then, I mean, from there,
Don't live off more than 50% than you make.
Yeah.
That's it's easy to say, it's hard to do for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But what do I make? I'm not, they want these new, like, nice apartments and everything, but you're just like, and there's times where, like, you got to go to the budget. It'll be tough. I always try to, and, like, life Grace always like, I'm gonna quit my job and work full time. Like, you don't even have a business yet. Like, you can't do that. Like, yeah, I've done that and then come back to work and then had to start over to, like, don't do that. Like, do a business, like, work your day job and then do your side hustle until your side hustle makes enough money where it pays for the day job, but you have enough consistent income for 3 months that you've done that. And then also make sure you have 6 months of reserves set up. So you got 9 months, you got a runway to give yourself, and you got a chance. Because there's going to be things that happen. There's going to be systems you don't have. There's going to be uncertainty. Someone's going to try suing you. Like, that happens. But yeah, money, and just learning to invest too, like, having that discipline. Just get a Vanguard account, invest in the S&P 500, you're going to make 10%. That's most advice people don't even do.
Yeah. That's something that I've started with recently in the past few years. And it's like, okay. And when you just set it and forget it, it's okay. This is what I have to live on.
Yeah, this is the paycheck that came in, and that's all you see. So yeah, I have a kid that I've been mentoring for 7 years. He went to get his first job, and he's in college now. And I said, I don't even do bank accounts. Like, you put your money in a bank and you get like 0.5%, maybe a couple % now. With their
We upload at 4% if it's in,
because they're going to take that money, they're going to invest in the stock market anyway, and they're going to make 10 on it.
Yeah.
So why would you put it in a bank? Like, I only put enough money in the bank to pay my expenses, and that's it. The rest goes right to investments.
Yeah.
And you could take them out of those accounts and put them into, take out real estate or something down the road.
Yeah.
Learn creative financing. That's a huge one. Like, you don't need people like, oh, there's $1 million building. Well, you put 20% down, or you put nothing down and you make the payments to the owner, because the owner doesn't want to take a whole lump sum and pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
Like, learn that stuff. That's probably phase 3.
Yeah, and learn how to negotiate those deals.
Yeah.
Learn sales. Yeah, right. I love that. You'll have to come on and give us a sales, not pitch, but class one day.
I love that. And I'm always learning to read. Like, part of our sales training is, like, we do scrims every day, or every Wednesday, like, live scrims I'll be showing. yes, it's too expensive or something. You get an objection like, what do you mean it's too expensive? Like, be able to role play that way. Yeah. And it's a skill, not a, people think you're inherently good at sales. Like, no, you might have a level up on somebody, but just like anything, get the big muscles from and going to the gym. Got to go to the gym. Yeah, can't but to work and eat right. Yeah, everything else goes kind of see. Yeah. Goes back to your systems. Are you tatted? You got a favorite tattoo?
I have one tattoo.
Gotcha. You want to go into that, or
I have a tattoo on my ass, actually. So,
okay?
my dad did tattoos, and so that's my dad.
Got you, Dad. Yeah, very healing in that way. Yeah, it's
so I moved my dad to a tattoo.
kicked in house that touch.
I was just, when I told my wife for the first time, I was actually like, said, no, you're here. Like, you know, I'm like, yeah, I'm here. So it's about, I got to show me, oh, shoot.
It's still there. It's, oh my goodness. So that, yeah. So that's funny. Well, I just asked that because I feel like anything that you put on your body permanently, there's got to be a story behind it that means something to you. Whether it's comedy or deep in meaning, it's all good, you know? Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah. Have you got a morning routine? Yeah, it's a morning routine. This is what a friend came to town this week, and so it was like, I'm like, well, I get up in the morning, I run for 3.5 miles, and take a sauna, and as you meditate, pray, and then that's how I start my whole day. And I think if you get the sweat in the morning, it to me it energizes me, gets me going. Yeah, so that's huge morning. Do that, pray, and then I get a morning call at 7 a.m. and then I get to spend about 45 minutes with my kids before nanny shows up, and then back to work. Love it. That's I get all the feels in.
I calculated. Yeah. How do you get it back?
There's the the tide element of it, but to me that's not as fulfilling because that's become a system, so it's automatic, right? Yeah, I mean there's different types of things. Even in our business, we tithe in every different sale we do, and a lot of times I'll bet to the rep or the operations guys like, hey, or anybody in the company, like, is there somebody on your heart? It doesn't always have to be a write-off or charity organizations. We always do that. But for me, it's like my biggest asset is my time. And so when I can put my time into somebody, that's like how I feel like I'm giving back the biggest value that I can do. Yeah. But I try to do that all the time. Like help neighbors and whoever. In my immediate circle of influence, I always try to help them too. Like if I don't take care of my household and I don't take care of my neighborhood, then how can I go out and help other people from
those extremities? So Dale, absolutely. And being your friend, it's very evident.
Yeah.
So I just applaud you in line and cheer you on that. You have a favorite joke or a comedian?
We've actually watched Jonathon lately. Yeah, that's we don't aisle, but yeah, I know. Oh, but I like how the only day that's the other day. There's we don't watch much TV or anything, but yeah, I like that because it just gives everybody a platform. Like you giving people a chance, right? Yes, that's to me that's there's so much bad stuff on TV anyways, but like when you can make a platform from somebody, give them a chance, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we all need to learn to be laughed at and laugh at each other and not take things so seriously. That's why I keep that joke or that question in the Stoic 7, because you gotta have fun, you gotta laugh at yourself, and not always be so serious. You know,
I don't really, I don't have any jokes top of my head. Usually like if someone's giving us like a math problem or something, or doing some math that they screwed up, I'm like, that's okay, man. 5 out of 4 people are good at math. Yeah. And like, so people will like actually be like, yeah, that's true. Or like, hang up. Like, that was a joke, right? Some of my humor is like really dry sometimes.
I'll try. I'm actually going to see Ari Maddie from Tony tonight.
Oh, nice. He's in town.
Yeah, helium. So that's one of my date night engineer for myself that I'm doing for our accountability within Iron Virtues. Yeah, I'm good at that. That'd be fun. Yeah. Some 15, like we can see it. Yeah. That's after that. Yeah. Most important thing you want to leave the world with.
My legacy is making my kids. And it's not like giving them like a huge inheritance or anything. I want to leave them with the wisdom, knowledge, and just building that character. I said, yeah, that's going to pass them down. And at the end of the day, know that Jesus loves them and I want to see them go to heaven. So,
yeah, that's so huge. We were talking earlier about, the recent events with Charlie Kirk and him not being able to raise his family up in that way. And also like all of these events that are just, there's a darkness in society right now over all the mass shootings and things that none of this acceptable. But that I've had quite a few friends say this similar thing, like it's a real bummer that he's not able to raise his kids up and be there. What
And it'd be that's right too, because it was like a guy that's preaching about raising your kids up right, and we're talking about having dad issues. Everyone that I see that has like the trauma in their life, it's usually because they're missing a parent. They have a friend that runs a prison guard in Wyoming, and that's what he always says. He's like mostly people all have family issues. They all have like one parent missing or something. And so for a guy that's like, if you don't agree with him or not, like he's preaching who he is. He's just being true and authentic, and wants to raise his kids, and he's trying to help that. And now he doesn't get, now those kids grow up without a dad.
Yeah, it sucks.
That hit yesterday, my daughter's birthday too, and it was thinking like I got to hold my daughter, and he does it too.
Yeah.
So that was sad. They shook me more than I thought about yesterday.
No, I always keep in mind like we're stewards of our children. That God ultimately, they're in His hands. Like we can do the best that we can do, and hopefully we've been the people that surround the right community around them. So when we are gone, because we never know when that day is going to be, that community surrounds them, takes care of them. That's why I think it's so important to have, the men in our lives that we have. It's because we never know when that day is going to come.
Mm-hmm.
And I just hope that anyone listening, like, to not live in that fear, but have faith in it and find your mat carriers, find the people that will speak into your life and call you out and encourage you in life.
Yeah. And that thing, my biggest fear is like my kids dying for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, I want to go call my kids for sure, but I still want to be in their life as long as I can. Right.
Absolutely.
I do them. And so, you got cut short. Huh?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Find those people, that's huge.
Yeah.
Find those people around you and all you do is pray for them.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John, for being here. And as always, keep on trading paradigms.
Thanks, Brian. Good shit.
Yeah, let's go.